All right, guys, we just wrapped up a weekend in New Orleans. On this trip, we are gonna tell you guys what the experience was like to take your RV right into downtown New Orleans and experience everything from the Bayou to Bourbon Street. And overall, it was a little pricey. So we'll tell you guys if we think it is a trip worth doing in your RV.
Okay, let's start off with talking about where we stayed when we went to New Orleans. So we went to the French Quarter RV Resort. It is right in the middle of the French Quarters. We were told by friends that it was like 2 blocks off of Bourbon Street. I think it was closer to like 6 to 8 blocks, but regardless, very close to where all the action is. It was a really good place to stay when you're trying to do a lot of things in a little time.
Yeah, so in regards to the resort itself that we stayed at, it's small, it's on the smaller end, and of course it's a campground. If you guys have been keeping up with our channel, we love to do a ton of boondocking, but
not a lot of options.
Going into a city, right, not a lot of options. In Chicago, we did in a parking lot, but here we stayed at the campground. The campground itself, it was very nice. It was all paved. It had these walls around the ends that had these spikies on the end, which made it feel like it wasn't in a safe area. I honestly felt like the area surrounding it felt pretty safe. But in the resort itself, some really nice amenities that it had was that it had a pool, it had a hot tub that both were exceptionally clean. We've stayed at other campgrounds that I would never go in their pool. So this one was really nice. They also had a fitness center, which I thought was like a really nice plus. We've been doing calisthenic workouts on the road, so to have some access, it's not a crazy gym, pretty much just some dumbbells, treadmill.
Like a hotel gym.
Yes, but it was just a nice little option to have there. Also, they had coffee in the mornings if you wanted, just a Keurig machine, but hey, I'll take it.
A lot of great amenities that we try to take full advantage of because the extent of our campground stays that we usually go to is like state parks. So when we start to see all these sorts of amenities, we're like, hey, we got to get our money's worth.
But definitely, I would say for the campground itself, 10 out of 10 location. No other campground provides as good of a location. The one weird thing about the campground though is that there's a billboard right in the middle of the campground. So like the base of it is right next to someone's site and it's like a huge highway billboard. And that brings me to one con of the location is that the campground is right next to a highway. We really did not experience too much road traffic when being inside of our RV, like the road noise that you would hear. But if you were to set up outside and be one of the sites that were right next to the highway, that would really be an unfortunate part of your stay.
And the price that we paid for all of this to stay right close to Bourbon Street, right in the thick of things, have all these amenities, was $120 a night.
So one thing to consider, but definitely at the end of this video, I will include a hack of how you could stay really close to this resort for much lesser price.
Okay, so that's where we stayed while we were in New Orleans, but let's talk about what we actually did while we were there. So the first thing, as we mentioned in our kind of campground review, the big thing is that it's really close to Bourbon Street. So of course we had to walk there. We had to see what that's all about. Just walking down the street, I mean, it was quite an experience. I wouldn't say that we were there like when it was super poppin'. Like it was a little bit earlier in the night. I think it was like 7 p.m. or something. So stuff just started to open up. And it also was really rainy, but it was still very cool to walk down the street, see the atmosphere, see the live music, and kind of see the vibes change as you walk from one end of the street to the other. Now, we were only in New Orleans for 2 days, and we did get some tips from friends and family that like Bourbon Street is probably not where you want to go if you want like the best experience, but we felt it's a short time, we gotta go. I mean, we're so close, we have to check it out. But there was another place that we went that I think I would recommend a little bit more.
Yeah, so that was Frenchmen Street. Frenchmen Street was all about, I would say, kind of like the historical jazzy type music to where you have, we went into a couple bars that they didn't have any cover to get into, but when you went in, you did have to buy a drink per person. So you'd buy your drink, sit down, and I mean, it would be like a full piece band. Like you'd have like a cello, a trumpet, a trombone. I would highly recommend going there. The music there definitely starts later. We probably got there around 8 p.m. I don't think it starts livening up till 10 p.m. We came in from doing so much driving. We were exhausted, so
I feel like we got a small taste of what it's like. But
yes.
I'm sure that it gets more lively.
Yeah, so many different different, you know, artists that are playing down there in such a swanky, cool vibe.
Okay, and now for the highlight of our trip. I wouldn't say that we tend to be like the biggest city people. I feel like we didn't super like the going out atmosphere and all that, but we were really excited to see the nature around New Orleans.
Yeah, so we decided that we wanted to do an airboat tour as it was heavily recommended. On a Sunday, I start calling up places. Every single place is booked until finally this guy with the most Bayou type accent picks up and was like, oh yeah, darling, like we'll get you through the door. So we were luckily able to squeak in. So if the airport tour is something you guys want to do, I would highly recommend booking in advance. We'll put a link to their business in the description down below if you guys want to book with them. We had an awesome experience.
Pretty much starting our airboat tour, I think there was 2 or 3 other boats that were leaving at the same time. So a big group of people. We were super excited to get out there and start to see some nature and wildlife. And unfortunately, it started pouring like crazy. The people did offer ponchos before leaving, but they were like, I don't really think it's gonna rain, but maybe just in case it would be good to have. But no, it was like a torrential downpour that I'm glad didn't ruin our entire tour, because it was probably only for like 20 or 30 minutes.
So after we survived the torrential downpour, that's finally when we're able to more so go through the bayou, explore more. The boat is pretty darn loud though, so they do give you earmuffs, which I highly recommend wearing as we were the closest to it. But we had a smaller boat. I think there was only 8 people on our boat or so, which was really nice. So yeah, we got to see a bunch of gators around. We got to feed them.
The guy kissed the gator.
He did. Yeah, our guide like kissed a gator from the water. And then, I don't know, 20 minutes after he told us how he's been bitten a ton of times. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. And then there was a cute part towards the end that he asked anybody if we wanted a Budweiser. He brought out a cooler and he goes, okay, here's your Budweiser to lady in the front. And it was a baby gator. He was like, this is Budweiser. So that was super cute, being able to hold a baby gator. And it was nice to know.
The baby was 2 years old. I was pretty shocked. I would have guessed that it was like a couple months old. It was really small. I mean, you could hold it just in one hand, but yeah, he said it was 2 years old.
Super, super cute. And each of the baby gators that they have are rescued on their trip. So that gator was found in somebody's gutter in their home, likely because like a hawk or an eagle picked it up and then dropped it as it was flying away. So Budweiser was a survivor. But definitely the Bayou trip was by far the highlight of this trip. We're probably personally biased because we like more nature type things.
Okay, so overall takeaways from the experience. Would we do anything differently? Would we do this trip again? I think, I don't know. Let me...
Give it to me!
Why don't you say?
Sure. So if I were to go to New Orleans again, I don't think I would stay at the same campground. 120 bucks a night is definitely expensive for a campground when literally right across the street, there's a big parking lot that we saw other Cruise America, B-type vans camping out there because you could stay in that parking lot for 20 bucks for 24 hours. So I think that would more likely be up our alley as a type of hack. You're pretty much boondocking right in the city. That area is also, I think, 1 block from a police station. So even though the resort that we were at had these big walls up against it, I would be comfortable with, I mean, of course, leaving our doors locked in the RV, but I would be comfortable with leaving our RV there.
I would be undecided. I feel like it could work, but I would also not be as comfortable as we stayed in the campground. So
of course,
yeah, for sure, I did like the campground just for peace of mind, and it was a good experience. But yeah, if you want to save some money, that was another option.
So I would say that's like the one thing that I would do differently. Overall, New Orleans, swanky place. Not entirely my vibe.
I'm glad that we went, though.
I am very happy that we went, though, for sure. And I think the Bayou by far was the coolest part. So maybe I'd be more intrigued to explore more of like the wetlands, Bayou type area. As for the city, I think I'd pass.
Yeah, I think for a first time, I'm glad that we were right in the thick of things and got to experience stuff. Yeah. But yeah, if we were to go back, we'd probably explore more of the surrounding areas.
Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video. If there was any big things in New Orleans that we missed, please leave those in the comments down below. And also, if you haven't noticed, we are stationary. So it's a big win in our book because we've officially made it back to Key West, Florida. So after being on the road for 6 months, 10,000 miles later, we are back in our home base. So we'll definitely be making more videos just recapping our overall adventure, and then as well as just covering some things that we missed, like the renovation of our RV, you know, what our setup looks like. Whatever you guys would like to see, also drop those in the comments down below. We're happy to make more content based on what you guys want to see. So until then, we will catch you guys next week.